Hello again. Jack's still here. He must be really tired today. Because I was getting up for a while. I had to read the lesson and get the craft done, so he's still here. He knows there's snacks here too. That's probably why. Anyway, so you guys watched the Holy Moly video about Exodus. You learned about Moses, how he was God called to him. He spoke to him through a burning bush, asked him to please lead the slaves, the Israelites, away from Egypt. And Moses knew that Pharaoh was not going to have it, but he went with his staff, his very powerful staff, and convinced Pharaoh with God's help, didn't he? There were plagues. And I want to talk a little bit about the plagues with you guys. The plagues were 10 awful miracles that God sends against Egypt. The Nile turned to blood, and that was their water source, the Nile. Frogs fell from the skies. They were in gnats, which are like nasty, I don't know, bugs, crickets or something. Flies, death of livestock, means their animals, their cows and stuff died. Skin disease, hail, locusts, darkness, death of the firstborns. Now, they didn't talk about that in the Holy Moly, but remember how Pharaoh's, in the last story, ordered death to all the firstborn sons? Well, this is what happened then. God used that same order against Pharaoh's, his people. The firstborn sons were killed, including his own. Now, the Pharaoh in this story is not the same as the baby Moses one. That would have been his father. So this Pharaoh, they identified him as Ramses II, but they really don't name that in the Bible, but that's how he's referred to. He's not the same Pharaoh who killed the Israelite babies, but God still used that against this Pharaoh when he would not let his people go. It was the last thing that finally Pharaoh said, okay, you can go. He's the absolute ruler of the massive kingdom. He worshipped as a god by his subjects. He thought himself as a god. And he refused to free the Israelites despite all the plagues and everything until finally that last one. We know about Moses, right? He brings God's law to the Israelites. He's raised by Egypt's royal family, remember? Pharaoh's daughter raised him. Lives as an exile in Midian after killing a guard who was abusing a Hebrew slave. So after he was raised, he was banished from the kingdom. So he was away when he saw the burning bush, and he went back to Egypt, okay? He called by God to return to Egypt and lead the Israelites out of slavery. His staff is filled with God's divine power, can turn Nile water to blood and part the Red Sea. I'm trying to think. Yes, you guys saw that in this video too, how he parted the sea for the Israelites to get away, and then all of Pharaoh's soldiers were killed, right? God in this story, he appears to Moses in a burning bush after seeing suffering of the Israelites. What do you guys think? What do you think that looked like? Do you think it was hot? Do you think Moses felt the heat? I mean, it was very powerful how the bush talked to him. Yahweh, who identifies the Israelites to be chosen people. Yahweh is another word for God, and he calls himself, I am who I am. That is in the Bible. He performs the plagues, and he saves the Israelites from Egyptian army by parting the Red Sea. And you guys saw that in the video, right? So let's read the story. Are we there yet? Are we there yet, Brother Moses? Our poor feet are getting sore. Will this be the day God shows us what our long, long walk is for? We escaped the evil Pharaoh, left our homes in dark of night. Now we wonder, where will we go when the sunshine burns so bright? So So you can see the Israelites leaving. You can see up here, it's Pharaoh, the mean soldiers. They walked for a long time to get to their new promised land. We're not there yet, chosen people, but we're walking step by step, and we're trying to be faithful. Are you with us? God says, yep. We despise the land of Egypt, where they were cruel to young and old, but one day our gloomy lives slipped. God freed us from Pharaoh's hold. So remember, the reason the Israelites wanted to leave was because Pharaoh and his soldiers were so mean to them. They were slaves. They were very, very mean to them. Are we there yet, Brother Moses? The sea ahead looks awfully rough. We don't see a way to cross. Plus, we're not sure we're fast enough, for the ground beneath us rumbles. Pharaoh's army hunts us down. All can hear our groans and grumbles. Could God want us all to drown? So there they are walking, and they can feel the soldiers coming. They can feel the rumbling on the ground. All the Pharaoh's army is coming. Because Pharaoh changed his mind. Remember, he let them go, but then he must have gotten lonely and bored and wanted them all back, sent his soldiers to get them, and they're scared. Those Israelites are very frightened. But we know what happens next, don't we? We're not there yet, chosen people, and I'll tell you honestly that we're in a sticky pickle between an army and a sea. But together we'll huddle up till God shows us just what to do. Yahweh tells us now, be still. Trust that God will fight for you. And remember, Yahweh is another name for God, okay? So here we have the people. They're getting very, very nervous. And of course, we know what Moses does. He takes his powerful staff and he separates the sea. And we know what happens to the soldiers, right? The Israelites get through it, but we know what happens to Pharaoh's soldiers. God has saved us, kept our feet dry, tried to make us understand. God is with us, always close by, as we seek the promised land. Yay! Boy, Pharaoh had to be very lonely now, huh? Not only are his slaves gone, but his army's gone. Wow, that had to be very frightening for Pharaoh. Sorry, the sounds you guys hear is Rod shoveling the deck because we get all that snow. So the next story is going to be, what do you think? What does Moses do? What does Moses bring to the Israelites? Do you guys remember? Give you a little set in stone. It's something about stones, but we'll talk about that next. All right, so now you have your craft page, okay? This is Moses and his powerful staff right here that God helped him with. Now you're going to open this up and you're going to cut on the blue line, always on the blue line, and then they want you to notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They want you to tape it together. So when you cut it, you tape it together so it's one big long line like this, okay? And then we fold it up. This will be the cover of your book, okay, Exodus. You'll fold it like this, okay? Now, on the one side, you'll notice they want us to fill in some stuff, okay? The first thing we have to fill in is, what did God call Moses to do? Well, you guys know he called him to free the Israelite slaves, right? From Pharaoh, from Egypt. So you can either draw a picture of that, of Moses freeing them. You can see the burning bush in that picture. That's how he called to Moses, through that burning bush, right? So just maybe draw the parting of the sea, or you can draw maybe a picture of Moses just asking Pharaoh to free the people. But then on this one, they want you to draw, what has God called you to do? Do you guys ever hear God? Does he ever call you to do things? He calls me all the time, all my life. When I was young, maybe it was to be nice to one of my friends that was being picked on. Maybe it was to help my mom. Maybe it was to respect my mom and dad, not be so sassy to them. Because I'll be honest, I was a sassy teenage girl. I was. When I got to be older, like in high school, I was called to help with Sunday school at my church for my confirmation project, which is interesting because what am I doing now? I've been called again to teach Sunday school. I taught Sunday school at Redeemer with my friend Lisa. When our kids went there, we were in charge of Sunday school, and I've been called again. So God works through us every day. So I probably would draw in mind picture of me teaching you guys Sunday school is what I would put in mind, okay? So with the book, once you get it all put together, I want you to read the story to somebody. Read it to your mom, maybe grandma. You can read it to your dad, your sibling, whoever. Okay, so the story is Exodus, right? Here's Moses. God said, go, Moses. Okay, so there he is. God says, go. God said, go, Moses. So he went to see Pharaoh. He's very brave to go see Pharaoh. God said, go, Moses. And the froggies all came. God said, go, Moses. And this one you'll notice the person has a skin condition. That was something that one of the plagues God put on Pharaoh's people. God said, go, Moses. And this one, I think the Israelites are all leaving, okay? And the last one is God said, go, Moses. And here they all are with Moses. Now they said there's something where something was missing. I don't see where something's missing. Oh, I see it now. What's missing? What should Moses have in his hand in this one? You got it, his staff. So you guys draw that staff in there. Right on Moses. Draw that in there, okay? And remember with Holy Moly, if you guys noticed the color, the people that are in color have been touched by God. It's been in all the Holy Moly stories. The people that are not touched by God are black and white. Look at the frogs. They're in color. No one's in color here except for the splotches on the guy's skin, okay? So I'm sure you guys have noticed that in the Holy Moly. I think that's very, very interesting, and I kind of like that about the Holy Moly videos, okay? So we talked about Moses. We talked about how he was called by Yahweh, God, through a burning bush to go and free the Egyptian or Israelite, the slaves. He had to go back to Egypt, okay? One thing I didn't tell you guys, if you think about this is Pharaoh's son. Pharaoh's daughter is the one that saved baby Moses. So Pharaoh and baby Moses grew up together in the temple. They're not related, but they were brothers in a way growing up. So Moses knew Pharaoh, and he was going back when he was exiled for killing one of the soldiers for harming one of the slaves. So that's why he was banished from Egypt. But he went back very proud, brave, but he knew God was behind him because God told him to do this through the burning bush, right? And that staff of his is very powerful, and he knew God was going to take care of him. So God had all the plagues put on the people. The last plague, which was firstborn son, was killed of the Egyptian people. Finally, Pharaoh let the slaves go because his firstborn son was killed. That's why he finally said, okay. And that, the firstborn son thing, that's a whole nother story called the Jewish people celebrate Passover. And that's a whole nother story, and we could probably talk about that sometime. But that's where the Egyptian people's firstborn son was killed. So God told Moses to tell the Israelites, put lamb's blood on your door frame so that the angel of death will go over your house, will not stop at your house. But the angel of death did stop at the other people's houses and killed the firstborn son. That had to be very, very frightening for everybody, knowing that that angel of death was coming through Egypt and doing that. That had to be very frightening. But that's the Passover celebration. We could talk about that some other time. So we learned about the plagues. We learned about Moses freeing the slaves, the Israelites, and they had to walk a long, 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 long way. The soldiers came up behind them, but God parted the sea with Moses' staff, and they were safe. Next time we're going to learn about the stone. What do we think? We'll find out next time, okay? Thanks, guys.